Welcome back to our channel, your premier destination for the most profound and detailed explorations of daytime television. Today is a beautiful day to delve into the intricate emotional tapestries of our favorite characters. Settle in as we unpack a monumental turning point that will forever alter the landscape of love and loyalty in Los Angeles. The atmosphere within the glittering, glass-enclosed walls of Forrester Creations has always been a battleground disguised as a sanctuary of haute couture. However, the recent dictatorial decrees handed down by Steffy Forrester Finnegan have transformed the executive suites into a landscape of profound humiliation and shattered dreams for Hope Logan Spencer. With a cold, calculated strike of executive authority, Steffy has once again halted the hope for the future project. The justification provided was that the company needed to pivot its entirely massive resources toward prioritizing Eric Forrester and his legendary couture line. While the respect for Eric is universal, the underlying malice in Steffy's delivery was unmistakable. It was a deliberate marginalization designed to remind Hope that she is merely a guest in the Forrester mansion, subject to the whims of its reigning queen. The psychological toll of this repeated subjugation has been absolutely devastating for Hope. For years, she has poured her absolute soul, her sleepless nights, and her boundless creative energy into building the hope for the future brand. It was not merely a fashion line. It was an extension of her identity, a beacon of progressive ideals woven into fabric. Now, she is forced to stand in the shadows of the very empire she helped modernize, swallowing her pride as Steffy exercises a ruthless brand of corporate dominance. Every time Hope attempts to elevate her vision, she is met with the impenetrable wall of Steffy's stubbornness. The emotional exhaustion is palpable, etching deep lines of disillusionment into Hope's previously optimistic spirit, leaving her to question her place within the broader tapestry of the Los Angeles fashion industry. Watching this agonizing slow-motion train wreck from the sidelines is Liam Spencer, a man whose patience has finally evaporated into a cloud of righteous, protective fury. Liam has always positioned himself as Hope's supportive anchor, the safe harbor she retreats to when the storms of Forrester Creations become too violent. But a husband can only watch his wife be trampled so many times before the role of passive comforter morphs into that of an aggressive defender. Liam is deeply, profoundly tired. He is exhausted by the sight of his brilliant wife returning home stripped of her dignity, her vibrant creative light dimmed by the oppressive shadow of Forrester tyranny. He views Steffy's actions not as sound business strategy, but as a continuation of a generational vendetta, a cruel sport where Hope is the perennial victim of Forrester arrogance. The stark contrast between the toxic wasteland of Forrester Creations and the glittering, triumphant horizon of the newly established Logan brand has only sharpened Liam's perspective. Bill Spencer and Katie Logan Spencer recently hosted a monumental launch party for their debut fashion collection, an event that sent shockwaves through the global fashion community. Their designs, broadcasted on massive illuminated billboards across the world, represented a spectacular victory. Liam stood amidst the popping champagne corks and the blinding flashes of the paparazzi at that celebration, and he saw a vision of what Hope's life could be. The Logan brand represents freedom, a fertile ground where creativity is nurtured rather than suppressed by legacy politics. For Liam, the solution to Hope's misery is blindingly obvious. She needs to pack up her talent and defect. Armed with this vision of liberation, Liam approaches Hope with a proposition that he believes is the ultimate act of love and rescue. In the quiet intimacy of their cabin, far removed from the sterile hostility of the Forrester offices, Liam lays out his grand design. He passionately demands that Hope sever her toxic ties with Forrester Creations immediately. He paints a vivid picture of her stepping into the sun at the Logan brand, perhaps bringing Deke Sharp with her, surrounded by people who respect her and who will never treat her as a subordinate. He frames this move not just as a career pivot, but as a vital reclamation of her self-worth. Liam argues that staying at Forrester is akin to volunteering for daily psychological torture, and he desperately wants to pull her out of the suffocating dictatorship where Steffi holds the executioner's axe. However, Liam's grand rescue mission collides violently with the complex, immovable bedrock of Hope's internal principles. To his absolute shock, Hope does not embrace the idea of fleeing to the Logan brand. Instead, she plants her feet firmly in the treacherous soil of Forrester Creations. Her refusal is not born of a desire to be abused, but from a profound, deeply rooted sense of duty to Eric Forrester's legacy. Hope possesses an intricate understanding of what Eric built, and despite Steffi's current reign of terror, Hope feels an unbreakable bond to the foundational magic of the company. She refuses to allow Steffi's temporary tyranny to sever her connection to a legacy she has spent her entire adult life honoring and expanding. For Hope, leaving now would feel like a surrender, a concession that Steffi has won the ultimate victory. Furthermore, Hope's pride, though battered, remains fiercely intact. She is driven by an overwhelming need to prove her design skills and her business acumen exactly where she is being humiliated. She wants to force Steffi and the entire fashion world to acknowledge her undeniable talent on the very battlefield where they are trying to bury her. Running to the safety of Bill Spencer's checkbook and Katie's new company feels, to Hope, like taking the easy way out. It feels like an admission of defeat. She wants to stand in the boardroom, look her detractors in the eye, and produce work so undeniably brilliant that even Steffi's authoritarian decrees cannot suppress it. Hope's resilience is a quiet, stubborn force, a determination to bloom in the darkest, most hostile environment simply to prove that her roots are unbreakable. This steadfast refusal to leave Forrester Creations triggers a catastrophic emotional collapse within Liam. His initial protective instinct instantly sours into a deep, agonizing sense of betrayal. From Liam's perspective, this is no longer just a debate about fashion lines or corporate real estate. It is a fundamental question of loyalty. He cannot comprehend how his wife, the woman he loves and defends, can willingly choose to remain in the den of the Spencer family's archenemies. The historical blood feud between the Spencers and the Forresters is a living, breathing entity in Liam's mind. Every time Steffi disrespects Hope, Liam feels it as a strike against the Spencer name. By choosing to stay and endure the humiliation, Liam feels that Hope is validating Steffi's behavior and betraying the protective sanctuary of their marriage. The arguments inside the cabin escalate from passionate pleas to venomous accusations. The air grows thick with resentment and misunderstood intentions. Liam paces the floor, his voice echoing with the pain of a man who feels his rescue rope has been slapped away by a drowning victim. He accuses Hope of being addicted to the drama, of lacking the self-respect to walk away from abusers. He points to the decades of manipulation, the endless cycles of Forrester superiority, and demands to know why she is willing to sacrifice her own mental health and their marital peace for the sake of a company that treats her like an afterthought. He feels deeply, personally rejected, interpreting her professional loyalty to Eric's legacy as a direct insult to his relentless efforts to protect her and uphold the Spencer family honor. Hope, in turn, feels entirely suffocated by Liam's conditional support. She looks at her husband and sees a man who does not understand the nuanced separation between her career identity and their romantic life. She tries to explain that her battle at Forrester is her own to fight, that her endurance is a testament to her strength, not a symptom of weakness. She begs Liam to understand that her professional worth cannot be dictated by his familial pride or his historical grievances with the Forrester clan. But the chasm between them has grown too wide, the resentments too deeply entrenched. The conversation devolves into a tragic standoff between two people speaking entirely different emotional languages. Liam speaks the language of absolute loyalty and protective extraction, while Hope speaks the language of professional endurance and creative legacy. Pushed to the absolute brink of his emotional endurance, Liam, does the unthinkable. The simmering tension finally boils over into a devastating, irreversible ultimatum. He stands before Hope, his eyes hardened by a mixture of profound sorrow and unyielding Spencer pride. He tells her that he can no longer be a spectator to her self-destruction at the hands of the Forresters. He can no longer share a bed with a woman who pledges her professional allegiance to the very people who actively seek to diminish her. The ultimatum is delivered with a chilling clarity that freezes the air in the room. Hope must resign from Forrester Creations immediately, defect to the Logan brand to protect her dignity and the Spencer family honor, or he will end their marriage right then and there. There is no middle ground left to navigate. The weight of the ultimatum crashes down upon Hope with the force of a physical blow. The silence that follows Liam's declaration is deafening, a vacuum that sucks the oxygen from her lungs. She stares at the man she has loved for so long, the father of her child, the partner in her most profound life experiences, and realizes that he is asking her to amputate a core part of her identity to soothe his ego. He is asking her to choose between the love of her life and the life's work she has bled for. It is a cruel, impossible demand, one that strips away the illusion of unconditional love and replaces it with a transaction based on familial tribalism. She realizes that Liam's love, while deep, is fundamentally tied to her willingness to conform to his vision of who the enemy is. As the seconds tick by, stretching into an agonizing eternity, Hope is forced to confront the deepest truths of her soul. She reflects on the endless compromises she has made throughout her life, the times she has silenced her own voice to maintain peace, the moments she has folded herself into smaller shapes to fit into the narratives of the men around her. She thinks of the Hope for the Future line, the message of empowerment and independence she has preached to millions of women around the world. How can she be the face of that movement if she allows her husband to dictate her professional existence through threats of abandonment? The realization dawns on her, cold and clear. Submitting to this ultimatum would be a betrayal far greater than any corporate defection. It would be a fundamental betrayal of herself and everything she stands for. With a quiet, devastating resolve, Hope makes her choice. She looks into Liam's eyes, her own brimming with unshed tears, and tells him that she cannot, and will not, walk away from Forrester Creations. She articulates her decision not with anger, but with a profound, heartbreaking sorrow. She explains that her career, her legacy, and her right to fight for her place in the world are not negotiable terms in their marriage contract. She chooses to stand her ground, to protect Eric's legacy, and to face the humiliation of Steffi's tyranny on her own terms, rather than run away under the shadow of Liam's coercion. By choosing her career and her creative integrity, she implicitly accepts the devastating consequence of his ultimatum, knowing that this decision will irrevocably shatter the foundation of their family. The finality of her decision strikes Liam like a physical wound, and the aftermath moves with a brutal, mechanical efficiency. Divorce papers are drawn up, stark black ink on pristine white paper, documenting the dissolution of a union that once felt destined by the stars. When Liam finally picks up the pen, his hand trembles with the weight of 1,000 unspoken regrets. Every stroke of the pen feels like a betrayal of the vows they once swore, yet he is a man bound by his ultimatum, trapped by his own pride. He signs his name, the sharp scratch of the pen echoing loudly in the silent room, finalizing the severance of their lives. Hope watches him sign, mourning the loss of her husband, but beneath the crushing wave of sorrow, there is an indestructible spark of liberation. As Liam slides the signed papers across the table, the long, tearful chapter of Liam and Hope Spencer